In this section, we'll be turning our 2D sketch of a dagger into a 3D model using two tools, the extrusion tool and the revolve tool. Revolving uses the profile selected and spins it about the selected axis. That's how it makes a three-dimensional model. Extruding pushes the selected profile out. All throughout this process, we have to be careful to keep everything as individual parts. So before you apply either a revolution or an extrusion, make sure the new solid option is selected. After we have our solids, we will modify them using the chamfer and the fillet tools to sharpen and round the edges. Lastly, we can go ahead and color everything using the material library. Okay, so let's turn our 2D sketches into 3D solids. I'll start off by using the Revolve tool from the Construct tab. The Revolve tool has two different selectors, the Profile selector and an Axis selector. I'll click on the pommel to select it as my profile, and then I'll click on the Axis selector and then select the vertical line as my axis. Now I type in how many degrees I want to rotate the profile by. In this case, I want it fully revolved, so I'll type in 360 degrees, and then I'll push enter to create the solid. Make sure to deselect your profile by clicking off of your sketch or pushing escape on your keyboard. I'll select the revolve tool again and revolve the handle in the same manner. This time though, make sure to select new solid, else it would try to attach the handle to the pommel, and we don't want that. Now I'll be using the extrude tool, also located under the construct tab. With the extrude tool selected, I'll click on the profile I want to extrude, in this case the hilt, and then by clicking and dragging the arrow, it can be extruded. Again, I want to make sure I select new solid so it doesn't try to cut or join our solids together. I don't want the hilt too wide, so I'll make it 8 mm thick by just typing in 8 mm for the dimensions. I'll push enter to create the solid. Next, I'll extrude the blade of my dagger. First, I'll select the profile I want. Notice we are not going to select the center shape since I want that to become a hole, so I'll just select the outer profile. I'll extrude this one by only 6 mm, so that way it's a little smaller than the hilt, and it won't protrude from our hilt. Again, we'll make sure to select a new solid. Now you might notice that the blade and the hilt are just sitting on top of the sketch plane, and our handle is smack dab in the middle of it. I want to line up the blade and the hilt so that way their middles coincide with the handle's middles, so it looks correct. I'll do this by using the Move tool in the Transform tab, either at the top of your screen or when you have the object selected at the bottom of your screen. I'll just grab this arrow right here and pull it back by 4 mm since our hilt was 8 mm wide, so that's half. I'll do the same with the blade, except I'll only pull it back 3 mm since the blade was only 6 mm wide. Now that we have our 3D solids, we can modify them to look more interesting and realistic. First though, so we can see better, I'll hide the sketches with the Hide Sketch button on the right side of our screen. There we go. Now we can see our dagger a little bit better. If you want, you can always unhide the sketches using the same buttons. Let's give the blade an edge by using the chamfer tool. The chamfer tool is located under the Modify tab. With the chamfer tool selected, we click on the 4 edges of our dagger, and then we can drag this arrow to increase or decrease the chamfer. Because the blade was 6 mm thick, the maximum chamfer I can add before the 2 edges meet up is 3 mm. I want to type in 3 mm then because I want the 2 edges to just about touch, so we have a pointy blade. Currently the top of our handle is protruding from our hilt. Let's use the fillet tool to curve in the handle so that way it looks like it's going into the hilt, not just like we kind of stuck them together. I'll select the fillet tool, also under the Modify tab next to the chamfer tool. I'll click on the top of the circle of our handle, that is, and then I can drag this arrow to increase or decrease the fillet. The hilt looks like it could use something to make it look more interesting. Let's try another chamfer. I'll go ahead and select the 4 edges of our hilt and apply a small chamfer. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I'll just leave it like that. Let's get some colors and textures on our dagger so we can visualize how the finished prop is going to look. Because we kept all of our parts as individual solids, we can color each one individually. Let's start off by selecting the blade, and now you can click on either of the material library buttons. There's one at the top of your screen, which is always there, and another one that appears at the bottom once you have selected a solid. These two buttons are perfectly similar, so use either one. I want my blade to be shiny, so I'll just go ahead and use chrome. With the material library still open, you can go ahead and select another component. Notice it changes the color of that component. That's fine though, because we're about to change it back to something else. Let's make the hilt black and shiny so it looks nice and scary. Notice we don't have any black shiny material in here, but that's fine because we can just make one out of another one. So I'll go ahead and select titanium, and let's apply a color overlay to it. I just select black, and then I click the checkbox of color overlay. Okay, for the handle, I want to color it red since part of the symbolism for this crown was derived off of the famous line about the blood on Mr. and Mrs. Macbeth's hands. Once more, I'll apply a color overlay so the handle is a deep red. Let's just quickly finish off the colors, and I'll just color the pommel black to match the hilt. Alrighty, this dagger's looking pretty cool. In fact, I think it's about ready to be duplicated to create the rest of our crown. If you haven't saved your file yet, make sure to do so now.